fish, wahoo, blackfin tuna, king mackerel, bonitas, yellowfin tuna, sharks, and as I mentioned earlier, dolphin. Everything is preying on dolphin. And then, of course, in addition to all of those natural predators, who's the biggest predator of them all? Us, right? We're all out there trying to catch these fish everywhere because they're really the greatest game fish of all time. They're readily available just about everywhere, in every ocean around the world practically, short of the Arctic Ocean. Okay? They're being chased by fishermen, throughout the year. So we definitely are the biggest predators. And then, of course, the commercial fishery. And a lot of that commercial fishing for dolphin is unregulated, sadly. Okay? In a lot of these foreign countries where regulations, they just don't have the resources to stay on top of it. So, I'm not saying they're keeping small fish or too many fish, but we've all seen videos where you see commercial fishermen and they're practically sinking their boats with these big gaffer dolphin. It's sad. It's a shame. But there's just no regulation, So the fish is under tremendous pressure. It's surprising that there's any dolphin at all, okay? But there are, because they reproduce so fast. And really this year, the dolphin season in 2024, I can't speak for you guys here in this area, but it's been pretty good, pretty good, and certainly better than years past. And that's kind of the talk of the town, is how good it is, and that there's a lot of fish, a lot of smaller schoolies. When I say a schoolie, a fish in the 24 to 30 inch range, okay, certainly well under 1 year old. That fish is anywhere from 3 to 8 pounds, is a matter of a few months old, okay? But there's a lot of them, and obviously they'll continue to grow. However, the percentage of those fish that are going to make it past 1 year is very, very, very small, okay? Of all of the dolphin that we've all caught, how many have you caught? What percentage is over 20 pounds? Okay, 1%? Not even? Okay, probably not even 1% is over 20 pounds. Certainly not 1%. I can tell you this entire year, fishing down in the Keys at a marathon, we've caught a lot of dolphin. And my largest this entire year so far has been 20 pounds. Okay, and that fish ate a jig on the bottom intended for a mutton snapper in 250 feet. However ironic that is. Okay? But most of them are those schoolie-sized fish. So, I've learned, like I said, a lot about these fish, and there's a lot of cool things that I wanted to share with you, and a lot of little tips that I believe are going to help you find and fool these. Okay? And understand, look, I'm not going to stand in front of you first and tell you that my way is the best way or the only way. It's not. You could ask everybody in this room, what's your favorite wahoo, or I'm sorry, what's your favorite dolphin lure? A sea witch, what's your favorite dolphin lure? You're not catching dolphin. What's your favorite dolphin lure?
Isle flyer.
Okay, an Isle flyer. Excellent. Sir in the green shirt. Dolphin candy, got you. Plaid shirt right there. Okay, good. So point is, you could ask everybody, everybody's going to have a different point of view. You know what I mean? And if something's working for you, by all means, stick with it, and share it with me. I want to be a more successful angler as well. But again, I want to stress that I'm not telling you my way is the only way. I'm just sharing experiences with you that I've learned from a lifetime of experience on the water, a lifetime of experience dealing with lots of other captains through the magazine, lots of other captains through our television series and anglers. But of course, nothing can substitute, or there is no substitute for real life experience out on the water. And it seems where every year, or I don't want to say every year, every trip, we're just learning more and more, right? And as fishermen, it's important to do that, right? To continue to evolve. And I don't know if there's any better game fish to do that with than dolphin. Everybody loves them because, number one, they're so readily available. And I don't mean all of the time right now. I mean, as compared to all of the other pelagic predators. It's easier for us to go out and find dolphin than it is to find yellowfin tuna, or it is to find wahoo, or something like that. Okay, so there are a lot of them. And like I said, I want to just share some stuff that I think will fascinate you and will also help you get dialed in. And one other thing I want to tell you, don't think I'm going to sit here and say, hey, here's the secret sauce for going out there and finding a 40 or 50 pound bull dolphin. Okay? There is no secret sauce for that. You want to know what the secret is for finding and catching a 40, 50 pound bull dolphin? Go dolphin fishing every day. That's the secret. The more time that you spend on the water, the more likely you are to encounter a big fish. Okay, that's the bottom line. Those big fish are 1 in a million, 1 in 10 million, 1 in 100 million, 1 in who knows what. They're very, very rare to find these big dolphin nowadays, these fish that are 40, 50 pounds. Certainly there are a few that are caught every year in the Keys. There are a few that are caught, every year up and down the coast, but there's not a lot of them by any means. So the only way to really increase your odds on those bigger fish is just to put in more time, right? To go out there, put in more time, and to be ready. To be ready. I can't stress that enough, because that opportunity is only going to present itself one time. Okay? How many times are you going to be out there when you're just potentially catching schoolies, or you're drifting around, maybe you're kite fishing, and a 50-pound bull dolphin pops his head up, swims up next to the boat, whatever it's going to be? How many times is that going to happen to you? Not very often, right? You're going to be lucky if it happens to you one time. If you are not ready for that scenario, if you have to rig a rod, tie on a hook, or whatever, you're going to blow that shot. That fish is going to lose interest that fast, and you'll never have that shot. I can tell you I've been fortunate to catch dozens of dolphin in the 30 to 40 pound range, dozens, none of which have been here. They've all been in the Pacific. Okay, my largest dolphin to date locally is probably 30 pounds if I'm lucky. Okay, I've never found that big 50 pounder. I'm still waiting to find that giant, for that opportunity to present itself. And I fish a lot and have fished a lot in 53 years. So, again, I've learned that it's all just about being prepared for when that opportunity arises. However, when we look at dolphin fishing, we have to say to ourselves, do I wake up in the morning and do I think to myself, hey, I need to prepare and I need to go target this one monster fish that's 1 in 10 million? Or do I go look for schoolies that are far more abundant? So is it schoolies or slammer? Say it with me. Schoolies or slammer? Which is it? I heard a couple slammer. Okay? It's schoolies. That's the bottom line. If you want to be a successful dolphin fisherman, it's about looking for a target-rich environment, right? It's about looking for numbers. It's a numbers game. That's what it is. And when you are targeting or when you are catching those schoolies or encountering those schoolies, certainly at any time, a big slammer may pop its head up, a bull and a cow. And by the way, let me point out that it's very, very rare, if ever, that you will ever see a big bull dolphin more than one. You'll see a big bull dolphin with a cow dolphin, or maybe 2 cow dolphin, okay, cow being the female dolphin, obviously the bull being the male, but you will rarely, if ever, see 2 big bulls together. And that's because they're dominant. They fight each other for the females. Okay, so they don't swim together. Once they reach that status, that slammer status, the bulls go out on their own. Okay, they don't school. They don't swim around in packs. You never see somebody coming back to the dock with 5 big bull dolphin. Okay, incredibly rare. Certainly here, non-existent. Okay, so it's really a matter of being lucky enough to go out and try and find one of those big fish. So I've learned that, like I said, it's a numbers game. Everybody wants action, right? We all, as fishermen, we all want to catch the most by going the least distance. That seems to be a trend, that everybody wants the most by doing the least. Well, let me tell you, when we sit here and we fish here, and I said, who fishes here? And almost everybody raised their hand. How many of you guys that are looking for dolphin here are fishing within 20 miles? The vast majority, right? It's rare that you're going to go out past 20 miles, okay? Certainly some people will, but it's rare. The numbers don't lie. They're going to be closer to shore. And that's, once again, because everybody wants to go the least distance and catch the most. But it's not going to happen like that. That's not the reality of it. The pressure, there's so many boats. What do you think, that there's a school of 30-pounders out there just waiting for you to show up? Okay, of course not, right? They've been beat by many other boats, potentially, picked off. So you have to start getting into the mindset of, you're going to get out of this fishery what you put into this fishery. It's changed. It's evolving. We can go back. There's, I hate to use this word, old timers, right? But in fishing, that's a term. If I went back and talked to some old timers and say, hey, back in the day, how was dolphin fishing here? You would hear these incredible stories of, these amazing catches being made close to shore because there was practically no pressure and there were a lot more fish, and it all made sense. But that's just not the case today. It's different. So you really have to be willing to put in the time, put in the energy, put in the effort, and it's a gamble, because just because you run way offshore looking for fish doesn't mean you're going to find them. Okay? It does not mean you're going to find them. And here, I'm going to tell you, this is one of the big differences, by the way, between fishing here, Pompano, Boca, Broward County, and the Florida Keys. You run 20 miles off to look for dolphin. If you don't find dolphin, what are you catching? Nothing. Nothing, right? You don't have, there's no plan B, okay? You're going dolphin fishing way offshore. If you don't find them, use my language, you're shit out of luck, right? You're turning around and now coming back and going, oh man, I should have fished, near shore, closer to shore. You don't have any other options. Whereas in some other areas, including the Keys, you have a lot of other options offshore. You have blackfin tunas, you have skipjacks, you have deep dropping, all sorts of different things that you can do. It's just a different world. But here in this area, making that commitment, I know it's tough. I know it's hard, to say to yourself, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to go out there. We're going to look for these fish. We're going to put in the time. We're going to burn the fuel. And hopefully we find them. Chances are we may not, but hopefully we do. So what do? You run offshore. You put out a spread. Couple of ballyhooed islanders off the outriggers, some Islamorada flyers, whatever it is that you want to fish, and you go out there and you troll with. I remember when I fished up here, our typical dolphin spread was 8 lines. 8 lines, okay? We fished 2 baits down deep, 6 baits up on top. My dolphin spread, trolling in the Florida Keys, is 2 lines. 2. Okay, and I'll explain why in a moment. So here, you go offshore, you put out your spread, and basically you're just blindly trolling, right? Or you're running and gunning. Running and gunning. What is the definition of running and gunning? Running and gunning is I'm running at a high rate of speed until I see something that says, hey, stop, fish right here. Fish right here. And that something likely is some type of what we call a floater, right? A floater, meaning some type of debris out on the ocean that's floating around. It could be a pallet, right? Everybody, it could be that pallet. It could be some type of garbage. It could be a tree branch. Who knows? It could be discarded netting, commercial netting, but it's something that's floating around out there, and you found that floater. You stumbled across the floater, and you're very, very lucky to do that, and hopefully that floater, okay, is going to hold dolphin. Of all of the things that you have stumbled across offshore, somebody give me, throw out, what have you found offshore as a floater? Tell me. Rope? Okay, rope is an excellent floater because anything that goes down in the water column is going to attract a tremendous amount of life, and that's a great floater. Were there any dolphin on the rope? No. Okay. A cooler lid? Okay. Probably no dolphin on that cooler lid. What else? A Cuban barrel boat. We call those a chug, right? Like made out of the barrels. Yeah. Yeah. Was the Cuban guy on there? Okay. Or any dolphin around it? Oh, nice. Okay. What else? Anybody find anything cool out there? I'm going to tell you the coolest floater I've ever found. A guy. Okay, out there dolphin fishing, and 3 to 5 foot seas, rough, and way out in the distance, I see some Coast Guard boats, like easily 5 miles away. But the Coast Guard boats are unmistakable with their profile. So I saw them out there, didn't think anything of it, and we're trolling along, and I'm following a frigate, and one of the guys on my boat says, "Hey, look over there, there's a log." And I looked over, and as the boat's coming up and down in the waves, it was kind of hard to see, but looked like a log floating like this. And then I took a closer look, and I said, "That's a guy waving. That's literally a guy." And I put 2 and 2 together, and there's a point to all of this. That's what the Coast Guard was there for. They were looking for this guy. Okay? Well, as instincts took over, adrenaline took over, immediately I turned the boat, called the Coast Guard, run the boat over to the guy. I reach down, I grab him, and just as I go to grab the guy in the water, he's surrounded by dolphin. Absolutely surrounded by dolphin. So I grab the guy, throw him in the boat, and my brother and one other guy on the boat are just sitting there beating on the dolphin. Okay, and this guy practically, sadly, passes away on my boat. I don't even know if he ended up living or not, but they're just beating up the dolphin. Okay, that was one hell of a floater, so to speak. So, point I'm making is, we find all kinds of stuff. And I could tell you down in the Keys, Cuban chugs, the Cuban rafts, we find a lot of those. We find a lot of debris coming off cruise ships, a lot of debris coming off, Cuba and some of the Caribbean islands that ultimately we see before you see, right? Because we get first dibs. I'm in Marathon. Anything you're catching here dolphin-wise, we've already beat them up down there. Okay, anything that's floating up here, it's already come past us because it's obviously floating with the Gulf Stream. But the point I'm making is you're running offshore, running and gunning. You're going at a high rate of speed, and you're not fishing blindly. Okay, you're not just trolling blindly. You're only fishing in areas that are likely to hold dolphin, right? Okay, so you see something floating, you stop, you slow down, and you immediately go running full speed over to whatever this floater is. Okay? This is what the most of the guys do. I'm not saying all you guys do it, but I've watched it myself, and I'm sure you have seen it. And you run over as fast as you can to that floater. Okay? Any dolphin that are anywhere around that floater, you just scared the shit out of them. Right? You got this big boat that you came at a high rate of speed right up to whatever debris this was. So I tell you this because the next time you're offshore and you see a floater, whatever it may be, stop. Stop and think about how you're going to approach this floater and exactly what you're going to do as you approach this floater in order to maximize on any opportunity that may be there. There may or may not be dolphin there, but if there are, okay, you need to really take this systematic approach to being able to capitalize on whatever opportunities are there. So slow down. Okay, slow down, take a deep breath, and think about what you're doing. And here's this floater, whatever it is, a log, a palm frond, a pallet, Cuban chug, whatever. Approach it from a distance at a slow rate of speed. Okay, slow rate of speed. Remember that when there's a floater offshore, it doesn't mean that the dolphin are going to be right there. If this is the floater, the dolphin are not right here. They're all out here. Okay, they're swimming all around the perimeter of that floater. They know that floater is there, okay, but they're not real tight to it. They're all around that perimeter of that floater. So understand that you don't need to be directly right on top of it as soon as you pull up to it. Take your time for a minute. Think about it. Approach that floater slowly, okay? Maybe throw a popper or throw a couple of baits at it. And then, yes, you can creep up to the floater because everybody instinctively, I do this myself, and I know you do this too. And don't tell me you don't. You see something floating out there, you want to get right up on it and look at it. Right? Oh, what is that? Check that out. Look at all of the bait fish swimming there. Look at, what I mean? We all, oh, no, there's nothing there. Let's go. Or, yeah, here they are. We're just curious, right? And we want to get right on top of it. but sometimes that could hurt us more than it could help us. So just take your time, approach it slowly. When you get to that floater, one of the problems or one of the issues that often occurs with floaters is you lose them, right? You see something offshore, there it is, keep your eye on it, keep your eye on it. Where'd it go? Oh shit, it's gone. Am I right? Okay, that ever happen to anybody? Okay, so what I do is I've rigged a nifty little floater marker. Okay? It's a small little device that is really going to pay big, big dividends. It's obviously nothing more than a float with a flag. Okay? It's got a 5-pound lead on the bottom in order to keep it bobbing. When we approach that floater, boom, that goes in the water with the floater. I could see this from 3 miles away. Okay, and I know that this is going to drift at approximately the same speed as the floater. It may not be identical, it may not be right next to it, but it sure is going to be pretty damn close. Okay, and I'm telling you, it is so easy to get disoriented when you're offshore. I don't care what kind of electronics, who you are, it's incredibly easy to get disoriented where you see something floating, and if there's any kind of chop, 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot, whatever, and then you turn around and you're like, oh, it was right there. No, it was right there. And no, it drifted over there. And before you know it, it's gone. Okay, it's gone. Okay? Whereas by using a marker, we're able to at least identify, if not the specific area, the general area and very close to where this floater is. So we could back off from it, because one thing that we do a lot is we troll, right? We troll for dolphin. So if you see a floater, this is right next to me at the helm. When I'm dolphin fishing, this is always right next to me at the helm. And you're trolling along, and you see something really quick out of the corner of your eye, boom, just throw it. Just throw the marker. So now you could go up, take your time, make a big figure 8, a big circle, whatever, and then come back and troll right alongside of it. You're not going to find that same piece of debris. Is very, it's very common to lose it. So it's a small little device, I'll call it, or a small step that has paid off for us so many times. So I recommend that you make yourself something similar to that. Another tool, vital, stabilized binoculars. This is perhaps the most valuable dolphin fishing tool that I have on my boat. I have an upper station on my Sea Hunter 41 Cat, and I could stand up in the upper station and I could see a great distance, but not like with these. Okay, with stabilized binoculars, you can see so much further, so much further. It's absolutely incredible, and that's what's going to help you find fish. It's going to help you find birds, okay, because who's your best friend when you're out dolphin fishing? Birds. And even, on our Sea Hunter, we have a Furuno TZT XL system with an amazing radar system with bird mode where I can pick off a flock of birds easily, 3 miles easily. I'm looking on the radar and I can see a flock of birds. But as I'm approaching that flock, I'm with my glasses, I'm with the binoculars, I'm looking at how the birds are behaving, I'm looking at what kind of birds they are. And the same applies with the floaters. We were just out, just literally a few days ago, came across a couple different floaters. One of them was a green commercial fishing net. And we saw something in the distance. One of the guys was like, well, what is that under the water? What is that? Where we may have just, I don't know, let's just keep going. But by taking out the binoculars and looking, I'm like, oh, it's netting, commercial netting. Certainly there's going to be some bait and some dolphin there, and certainly there was. Okay, so it really is an incredibly valuable tool. And for the price of tackle nowadays, not chaos rods, they're an incredible value, but short of chaos rods, it's worth every penny. There's no question about that, okay? And again, I want you to kind of understand the theme, or what I'm trying to explain to everybody here about dolphin fishing is how these little details, that's what makes the big difference in your dolphin fishing. But no matter what, you can't catch fish that aren't there, right? You can't snap your fingers and make fish appear that are not there. But when they are there, and when you do come across them, if you don't take all of this stuff into consideration, and if you don't really prepare accordingly, you're going to blow those few shots that you get. Okay? And you're not going to be able to capitalize on those. So it is very important that you take all of these details into consideration. I want to get back for a second into the big dolphin and the floaters. When you run offshore and you come across a floater, if there's no dolphin on it that you don't see, what is there? What do you always see on floaters? No, not wahoo. What do you always see on floaters? He said triple tail, which, correct, oftentimes there's triple tail on a floater, but there's always those little jacks, right? There's always those little bar jacks, blue runners, okay, juvenile amberjacks and almaco jacks, banded rudder fish, all of that bait, all of that forage that's around that floater. How many times have you filleted a dolphin and it's had a jack in its belly? I don't know about you, but I'm sick in the head. When I fillet fish, every single fish, I'm investigating what's in its stomach. Okay, every single fish that I catch. And I cannot tell you how many dolphin have a jack, right, in their stomach. That's what they're eating. Okay, but understand what's happening on that floater. You have all of these lively jacks. They're all swimming around, together, safety in numbers. Okay, but if you were to catch one of those, so I always bring a spinning rod with a small hook, and if you flip a bait out and catch a 6-inch jack immediately, and then take them and put them on a spinner, a little bit of a heavier spinner, okay, and chuck them out 50 feet away from that floater, and just let that bait swim around. He's a wounded bait. Any big dolphin that are in the area are going to pick that thing off in a second. The best bait that you could potentially even use around any of those floaters is what's swimming around right there. That's what they're eating. We don't always go out and have a well full of pilchards or a well full of goggle eyes. That would be great if we could. But we don't always do that, right? There's so many times, and especially when you're going dolphin fishing, you know what you do? Ballyhoo. That's what everybody does. Let me get some rigged ballyhoo, which is a great bait, no question, right? And let me go trolling with rigged ballyhoo. That's the vast majority of what guys do. But yet, the best bait that you could use is right at your fingertips, right there in front of you when you find those floaters. Even if you don't see any dolphin around there, like I said, that's a great way to attract fish to it. Those fish are there. If it's a good floater, there's rope in the water, there's bait around, it is very, very likely that there are dolphin in the area. You may not see them immediately. They may be down deep. Okay? They may be 100 feet down. There could be a school of dolphins swimming around. They could be 100 feet away. They swimming around. Lots of different scenarios. But if you put in that time, that's a great little, I don't want to use the word trick, but a great tactic for catching dolphin on those floaters is to catch that bait that's right there. But once again, you've got to be ready for it. Have a rod rigged and ready. Okay? Another thing that we do, in addition to ballyhoo, what is perhaps the most popular bait when you come across a school of dolphin? Squid. Squid. No question. Dolphin love squid. Anybody ever throw squid at dolphin and the dolphin swim right up to it and go, nope, and swim away? That ever happen? That never happened? That's happened to every single dolphin fisherman here. You go offshore, you run across some schoolies, and you throw baits at them, and they won't touch them. Okay? They won't touch them. You think they're going to, they'll swim right up to the bait, and right at that last second, right when they're this close to eating it, you're like, oh, he's going to eat it, and he goes, doop, and swims away. Happens to me, happens to everybody that's out there dolphin fishing. These fish are not dumb. They're not dumb. Okay? They have incredible eyesight. They're incredible predators. And through the magic world of video, we've seen that even a hook on 30-pound fluorocarbon leader, 30 pound, when underwater, this 30-pound leader looks like somebody took a black magic marker and just, like with a black magic marker, it is incredibly visible underwater. So the dolphin is all excited and fired up, and he swims up to the bait, and right at the last second, he realizes, something just doesn't look right here. Okay? It just doesn't look right. And he turns off and swims away. and then the jacks come in and eat the squid, or a little schoolie that's 18 inches, comes along and eats the bait. They're incredibly smart. So you've got to outsmart these fish. And one way to outsmart them is to move the bait, move the squid. Okay? They love a bait that's moving. Okay? Tease them. Okay? Piss them off. Get them angry. Don't let them catch it. Let them chase it. They love that chase. Okay? They love that chase. Also, when you're watching them, because, look, that's the cool thing about dolphin fishing. Short of hooking fish blindly on the troll, most of the dolphin fishing that we do is sight fishing, is it not? It's a glorified method of sight fishing. You're looking at the school of fish that are right next to the boat. Maybe a few of them chased a fish that you hooked on the troll, right? And you're reeling in that fish, and then, oh, look, there's two more with it. Or you come across a weed line, you're throwing some baits, and here comes a school of dolphins, so you're looking right at them. It's sight fishing. And there's so many different times when they just won't touch a bait, okay, because they've been beat up by so many people. I probably was chasing those same fish, and who knows how many other guys. So they get beat up, they really become skeptical, spooky, and sometimes it takes them a long time to kind of settle down before they just eat aggressively again. But a trick to getting those fish to eat is move the bait. Okay? Skip it. Move it erratically. Don't let that squid just sit there. Sometimes, if they're very hungry and they haven't been beat up, of course, they'll swim by and they'll eat it, but that just isn't the case. So something, again, that small can make a very, very big difference. When we look at those fish, one thing that we've learned as well is the color of the fish. Aren't dolphin the most amazing, beautiful, offshore game fish ever created, right? With these greens and blues and all of these magic colors and golds, and they can turn color, right, in a second. And we watch them, and what we've learned is the fish that are bright, that are as bright as possible, they're glowing bright green, that neon green, those fish aren't going to eat. They're not feeding, okay? But underneath them or next to them, you'll see other dolphins that are dark green. Really, really like a dark green. Those fish are feeding. Those fish will eat. So we selectively throw our bait at the fish that are eating. It's happened so many times, okay? Like I said, we're watching them over and over again, and you'll see these patterns emerge. So it's clear that the color of the fish is telling you as an angler a lot. Okay? If you're willing to pay attention, if you're willing to look at those details and understand what they're trying to tell you. Some of these dolphin, I've learned, are so spooky that they just won't touch anything. One way you know that, you can have a school come next to the boat. Don't throw anything. Don't put a bait on a hook. Just take a bait and just throw a bait in the water. A squid, whatever. If they don't eat something, or a chunk, or a ballyhoo, if they don't eat something that doesn't have a hook in it, that doesn't have a line attached to it, do you think that they're going to eat your bait? Okay? They're not. But if, again, I'm going back to what I said, but if you move it, if you skip it, if you tease them, if you aggravate them, they will eat it, okay? And they'll turn on. We all know also there's that whole, I don't want to use the word trick, but you hook a dolphin, you keep them in the water. You hook another dolphin, this one comes in the boat, this one stays in the water. We alternate, right? This is how we do it. We systematically pick off the entire school. You might get 2 or 3 out of that school. We're getting 12 or 13 out of that school. How do we do it? We're only fishing a couple of rods. Okay? We're not in this, sometimes you get 4, 5, 6 people on a boat. You come across a bunch of dolphin, and everybody's just so excited. They're screaming, they're yelling, they're grabbing the nearest rod that they can. They're putting whatever they have on the hook. Everybody's throwing lines in the water, and there's one line here, one line there, and you're tangled, and you have there's all of these different things, right? No. Systematically pick them off. Relax, okay? The fish are right there. Keep them interested. Hook one. Leave them in the water next to the boat. Now take another bait. Hook another one. Get this one in the boat. And alternate. And just go through that system like that, and you'll be able to pick off probably the whole school. Again, it's just a small little detail that we've learned that makes a big difference on how many you can catch. And if you do it the right way, you'll reach a point where you're like, all right, we had enough of this. Let's go look for either another bunch or a bigger bunch, or how many dolphin can you keep? Which is another thing. How many dolphin can you keep? Okay. The law is 10, okay? But that really wasn't what I was getting at. How many dolphin can you keep? How much dolphin can you eat? Right? Like, in other words, in my opinion, it should be like 4 or 5, per person. Right? It should be like 4 or 5. Because yes, I understand that, and this is the logic, by the way. This is the theory. But that fish has multiplied, that fish has spawned so many times that it's okay for you to keep 10. You know what? It's not okay. I see down in the Keys, I'm disgusted many days by what I see down in the Keys from a lot of the charter boats who have nothing but a big ego just to hang 30, 40, 50 schoolies. What for a family from Virginia? They're going to take back 50 schoolies to Virginia and eat them? That's disgusting. Okay, it's absolutely reckless, and it doesn't need to happen. And if you want to know why you're not catching them, because Joe Blow down there took 50 of them, okay, when he didn't need to. Okay? It should be 5. Dolphin, you get a lot of meat off a dolphin. It freezes, pretty good. You can cook it any way in the world that you would like. It's one of those fish where you could grill it, fry it, saute it, bake it, broil it, eat it raw. Okay, you could do whatever with dolphin, and it's good. It has pretty much no flavor other than how you flavor it, right? So, but it's a good fish, but you don't need to keep so many of them. Okay, be conservation minded. Really, be conservation minded. And it really bothers me when I see what I call overkill. And I feel like so many people do it nowadays just for the gram, just for Instagram, just to get their picture on there with all of these dolphin. And I'm like, how many of those damn things can you eat? I don't know. So even though you can keep 10, maybe put a rule, on your boat where 4 or 5 per person at the very most. Okay? Of course, even a bigger dolphin, you're going to get a lot of meat off a big dolphin. And I could see keeping more of the smaller ones. But even, a 25 to 28-inch fish is going to yield quite a bit of fresh dolphin, So don't get carried away when you do come across them. So like I said, a couple tips there on the schoolies when you run across them, on moving baits that are dead like squid. That's a great, a bait when you come across fish that you're sight fishing that are next to you. Another thing too, we always carry different classes of tackle, because if the school pops up and they're all 24, 26-inch fish, this is really fun. Lighter rod, 20-pound test, something like that. It's a really fun outfit to catch those schoolies with. On the other hand, if bigger fish come by, then obviously a 6.6 rod, something maybe 30-pound test, is a little more appropriate for those fish. So it's always a good idea to have different classes of tackle that you can reach out and grab at any time. When it comes to hooks, and understand that dolphin fishing is, I don't want to say rarely, never about circle hooks, right? We don't fish circle hooks for dolphin. We fish J hooks. I prefer the VMC 7385. It's a live bait J hook. We fish 5.0 smaller hooks, and we fish 7.0 hooks. Dolphin has a big mouth. A 24-inch dolphin can suck down a 7.0 hook like it's nothing. So don't think that you're fishing too big of a hook. It's not. Plus if a bigger dolphin comes along, obviously you want to have something that has some good bite in. Okay. Leader material, fluorocarbon is important because it's less visible in the water column. A lot of our reels are filled with diamond braid, as you can see, but we never tie the diamond braid directly to the hook or to the lure. We're always tying that diamond braid using an Alberto knot to a fluorocarbon top shot, something that is very stealthy. And they'll still see this. Remember what I said about that black magic marker. They're still going to see this, but it's not going to be anywhere near as visible as the diamond braid. From there, and again, we connect that braid, that diamond braid, to that fluorocarbon leader with an Alberto knot. From there, we finish it off with a hook with an improved clinch knot, a fisherman's knot. I tell people when it comes to knots, look, you don't need to know 100 different knots. You need to know a few different knots, but you better know them good. You better be able to tie them, on a rocking boat with one hand behind your back blindfolded. Okay, but you only need a few. Okay? You have to know how to tie a hook on. You have to know how to tie a swivel on or how to connect braid to fluorocarbon leader. Just some basic stuff. Doesn't need to be fancy, but do it right. Okay? And always check your tackle. Always. Here's a perfect example. I kind of left this on here on purpose. So this actual outfit just caught 10 dolphin the other day. The leader is completely frayed. Here it is. It's completely frayed. If I run my fingers on there, it's all chafed and completely frayed. If I go out fishing tomorrow, okay, and if I do not re-rig this, shame on me. Shame on me. I should lose a big fish. It's my fault because it's something that could have taken 2 seconds for me to just snip this off, cut a few feet of leader off. And that's why when you put a monofilament or a fluorocarbon top shot on top of your diamond braid, always leave, long enough. In other words, 25 feet, 30 feet, because you could always come in and snip 12 inches off, snip 2 feet off. And you can keep cutting back, if it's frayed. Don't make that mistake. Don't let angler failure or tackle failure enter the equation because it could cost you, a quality fish. And like we said earlier, how many times are you going to come across that big fish? Very rarely. When you do, you need everything in your favor. Your drag needs to be set properly, obviously fresh line, your knots need to be right, all of that good stuff. And you as an angler can't be too anxious either. You hook a big fish when you're dolphin fishing, trolling, or even on a spinner, because spinning rods are really popular when we're dolphin fishing, right? We like to throw baits out at weed lines, throw baits at schoolies, around the boat. So spinning rods are very, very popular. If I told you you can catch a 50-pound dolphin on this light outfit, would you believe it? Yes. But if I hooked a 50-pound dolphin on 20-pound diamond braid, a 30-pound fluorocarbon leader, and I sat right there in the boat and tried to fight that fish, what's going to happen? Zing, pow, okay, gone. There's no way that I'm going to persuade or coerce or force a monster 50-pound bull dolphin to me. I'm not going to pull that fish to me. But instead, remember, when we're dolphin fishing, we're not anchored, right? We're not anchored. We're either trolling or drifting, whatever. You can move the boat. Follow the fish. Follow the fish. Let the fish go on a run and slowly follow the fish with the boat. The way to close the deal on a big dolphin, okay, is you're going to fight that fish, relax, take your time. Don't be in a rush, okay? Just slowly finesse that fish, let him get tired, let him wear out. And then once that fish comes up near the surface, close the gap with the boat. Don't try and pull the fish to you. The fish is swimming in this direction. All you got to do is slowly close the gap with the boat. Okay, and once you get within gaff range, obviously somebody reach out, gaff them in the head, and hold on for dear life. Okay, but don't try and force that fish to you. So with any class tackle, as long as your connections are good, look, even on a small reel like this, okay, there's got to be 400 yards, 500 yards of 20-pound diamond braid. 500 yards. That's a lot of line. And I'm in a moving boat. So there's never going to be a scenario where that big fish is going to spool me as long as we take the necessary measures to follow that fish. Okay? Don't force it. When you force it, that's when things go wrong. And that's when tackle failure and angler failure enter the equation when you force it. Another thing on the trolling side, we touched on trolling a little, okay? When I think about trolling for dolphin, the most common bait, like we said earlier, is ballyhoo, rigged ballyhoo. And oftentimes here, South Florida, the Florida Keys, a rigged ballyhoo under an islander or under a sea witch, okay, is just an absolutely deadly bait. A naked ballyhoo is in the Keys is a favorite. Down in the Keys, we don't fish the same way that we do up here with the islanders and with the sea witches. Really don't do that with the ballyhoo. It's just a naked ballyhoo skipping on the surface. And it's an absolutely deadly bait, there's no question. And all size dolphin will eat that. Small ones, big ones, any dolphin will jump on that. It's incredible that a 20-inch dolphin will probably attempt to eat a 20-inch bait. You know, they're just voracious. They just eat whatever they can, and understandably so, because they have a lot of brothers and sisters that are going to try and eat the same food that they're trying to eat. So it's a very competitive world. The dolphin world is very competitive. They have to eat, or potentially they'll be eaten, or somebody else is going to eat them. So again, you know, the ballyhoo's a great bait, but trolling lures is also very, very effective, right? Artificial lures. And a lot of people say, and I think I've mentioned this about this seminar, I said, hey, I want to share with you what the best trolling lure for dolphin is. Okay, what the absolute best dolphin trolling lure is. I think the easiest way to answer that question is the best dolphin trolling lure is the one that you just caught that dolphin on, right? That's the best dolphin trolling lure. But a couple of examples and a couple of scenarios. You want to catch big dolphin? Pull a big bait. This is a Zack Attack. It's an absolutely killer bait, mimics a bonita or a blackfin. It's a big bait. That's a big bait. Okay? And very rarely will a 20, 24, 28-inch dolphin jump on a bait that size. And we don't want them to. We're not looking for quantity. We're looking for quality. So when we are looking for quality, for example, you're fishing a tournament, a dolphin tournament, where it's not about how many you catch, it's about catching the biggest one. So I'm not looking for as many bites as I can get. I'm looking for that one special bite. I might fish a big bait, multiple big baits, almost like marlin lures. Okay, that's really what that is. Okay, and a big, big dolphin won't hesitate jumping on a big bait like that. However, if I'm looking for numbers, if I'm looking for schoolies, if I'm looking for action, hands down, through experience, I will be the first to tell you that that is the most effective dolphin trolling lure I've ever come across in my entire life. Right there. Okay, you can come up and look at it right at the end of the seminar. You're not going to find this here at Chaos. You're not going to find it at any tackle shop in Broward County. You're only going to find them in the Keys. Okay? Don't ask me the name of it because I don't know the name of it. They don't come in a package. They're sold in a basket. Somebody's making them in their garage or on their kitchen table. I kid you not. You think I'm kidding you. I'm not kidding you. But I promise you that that lure right there, I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. It has this little acrylic head with like 4 little jets, 4 little holes, 4 or 5 in there, and just this stupid little root beer colored squid skirt. Okay? But there's something really special about that lure. The way that it tracks through the water, it creates this hydro bubble around the lure itself, almost like a force field. It's kind of hard to explain. You put these things behind a boat. I don't care, 3rd wake, 5th wake, 7th wake, wherever. Just put them behind a boat. Pull it at 6 miles an hour, 8 miles an hour, or 10 miles an hour. I don't care. Just pull it. Just move it through the water. Any dolphin anywhere is going to come running to that thing and jump all over it. Right? Can't explain it. It's just an absolute dolphin magnet. Now, there are a lot of other similar lures, no question. I'm sure that there's 1,000 of them here. Okay, small little chugger type lures that are all very effective, no question. But for some reason, there's just something very special about that. So if you're looking for, a nifty little lure, you may want to come take a look at that. And speaking about trolling, when we're pulling this, you can see I'm fishing it on a Chaos 7-foot KC 15 to 30 pound class rod. This is a light to medium duty trolling outfit. I don't need more than this. I see guys, that are pulling Tiagra 30, like Wahoo tackle for dolphin. Okay, way, way, way too big. Way too big. Lighten it up. What happens is, look at this tip. So if you fish a rod that's too big, that's too heavy, you don't get any of this. You don't get any pulsing. Okay? As you're trolling along and that lure is coming off a wave or going into a wave, that rod is going to pulse. right? It's going to move. And that actually brings that lure to life when that rod is moving and pulsing. If you fish some of this, wahoo gear, sword, I've seen guys pull shit that I'm like, what are you doing? They just giant stuff that has no life to it. You're hurting yourself more than you're hurting. You're hurting yourself more than you're helping yourself. So remember, think light, but do it right. The reel, Talica, filled with 20-pound diamond line. This is Orange Crush, high vis line. Very, very easy to see. Very easy to see. Not a big deal if you're pulling one lure, but if you're pulling 6 or 8 of them, which is not a bad idea. If you don't know what lure to pull, go get 8 of these and put 8 of them behind a boat. I'm not kidding you. You can thank me later. Okay, go get 8 of these and just put 8 of them behind the boat. You'll catch more dolphin than you ever have before. And in turn, the high vis line is going to make a huge difference. You'll be able to track every one of those lures, every one of those lines. It's going to be easier to bring fish to the boat. It's going to be easier to set the lures. It's going to be easier to deal with any tangles or anything like that. But obviously, we don't want that high vis line going directly to the lure. So once again, very much like with our diamond braid, even on our high-vis mono, we add a top shot, no less than 25 feet clear, okay? We use a blood knot to connect the mono to the mono. Then here, just nothing but a small little barrel swivel, not a snap swivel, and not a big snap swivel. Why don't we use a snap swivel? Snap swivels catch grass, okay? And there's a lot of grass in the Florida Keys. Okay, and you get any grass on there, and it's obviously, you know what happens from there. So we try and keep everything as streamlined as possible. Trim your edges as tight as possible. Keep everything very, very streamlined. Okay, very, very streamlined. And that's really all that you need. And keep in mind, there's enough backbone, enough line to where when a sailfish jumps on this or any other, potentially larger predator, you're not outgunned, you're not undergunned. It really is a great lure and a great all-around versatile outfit, which, by the way, it's the same rod as KC 15 to 30. It's the same rod that we're kite fishing with. It's the same rod that we do a lot of bottom fishing with. I would argue that it is the most versatile rod that they build and sell, is this KC 15 to 30. Super strong, super sensitive, and great across so many different fisheries. Earlier, I said that a lot of people here who are trolling will fish 6 lines, 8 lines. I used to fish 8 lines when I fished here. And now in the Keys, I fish 2. And I'll explain why. I don't want to catch the dolphin trolling. I want to catch the dolphin on spinners when they're right next to the boat, when I can wipe out the whole school one at a time and keep my 5 and keep his 5 or whatever it is, right? I don't want to have to troll all of the time. I want to be able to catch those fish right next to the boat. So we'll put 2 out, okay? And again, remember, there's a lot of grass. So we control 2 lures along a weed line, along any floating debris, hook a dolphin, and immediately when we hook a dolphin, we have a bucket of cut bait right in the back of the boat, right there. We start throwing breadcrumbs. We start throwing pieces of bait, not real breadcrumbs, pieces of bait, okay? So as we're reeling that fish in, we're throwing pieces of bait. If there are any other dolphin anywhere in that area, what are they going to do? They're following them right to the boat. And once they get right to the boat, now we just pick up spinners that are rigged and ready, and one at a time. You throw one, okay, I got one. Wait, keep them in the water, let me hook one, okay, flip yours in the boat, and systematically we pick them off like that. So I'm not trying to catch a lot of fish on the troll. Now understand, it's different here. No question, it's different here because you have to cover a lot more water. You don't have the same fishing that we have. And I know this is going to be hard to believe. I said it to somebody before and they looked at me like I had 3 heads. They said that the dolphin fishing here right now is horrific, terrible. Nobody can find any dolphin. They said, how is it in the Keys? I said, it's stupid. They're just everywhere. They're everywhere. Okay, we go offshore anywhere, from 15 to 20 miles offshore, and you cannot stay away from the dolphin. There's packs of birds over there, they're on dolphin. There's packs of birds over there, they're on dolphin. There's packs of birds over there, they're on dolphin. Non-stop all day long, everywhere you look. Okay, you're just catching schoolies, as many as you want. It's like not even fun anymore. It's not even challenging anymore. Catching the bigger fish, of course, that's tough. But as far as quantity is concerned, the Keys are loaded. They're loaded in dolphin right now. Okay, they really are. And why is that? Why are they there and not here? You know, I mean, when I think about their migratory patterns, obviously they're making that big circle around the Atlantic, the way that we talked about, and then they come up through the Caribbean, and of course they smack right into the Florida Keys before they go anywhere else. So we get first dibs at those fish. And I can tell you since April, certainly May, the dolphin fishing has been very, very good. Not every day. Look, it's fishing. You know, not every day are you going to go out there and sink the boat with fish, right? Okay, some days are going to be very challenging. But on a, you know, consistently speaking, it has been an excellent dolphin season. And right now, this is peak season. You know, May, June, July, the summertime is peak dolphin season. This is when they're here in their migratory patterns. And there's just so many of them down there. And like I said, it's always kind of surprised me why there's so many there and nowhere near as many here. You know, maybe there are here, but there's just so many more people fishing. You know, and any day in the Middle Keys, I'm just going to use round numbers. I have no idea. But in any day on a Saturday in the Middle Keys, there's 100 boats out dolphin fishing. How many people are out here fishing on a Saturday? 1,000, right? Like, it's ridiculous, you know, especially on the edge. Forget it. If you were fishing on the edge, like during a tournament weekend, you're looking up the beach and there's nothing but balloons and kites, you know, all the way up the edge. The pressure, how can anyone catch anything? You know, when we tournament fished up here, we were fishing at times 2 and sometimes even 3 kites, okay, but always a minimum of 2 kites with 3 goggle eyes and 3 goggle eyes, and then 6 gogs on the flatline side of the boat, 2 deep, 4 up on top. So we're drifting around with a dozen goggle eyes. And so is he, and he, and he, and he, and he, and he, all the way up the line, 150 boats. How can any fish make it through that corridor, you know, without falling prey, you know, without being tempted by something and being caught? It's just a different world down there. So, you know, your challenges, as I mentioned earlier, are much bigger here. There's no question. There are fish here. Look, dolphin have been swimming through these waters since the beginning of time. And they're still swimming through these waters because this is where they migrate. Okay? Are they right out front on the edge of the third reef? Nope, they're not. Sometimes, you know, maybe the Bolo's catching a few of them here and there, you know, and of course the guys that are pulling the planers and the strip baits, yeah, you're going to pick off some dolphin here. There's no question. But this, you know, the reef line is not primary dolphin territory. It's offshore. It's that Gulf Stream. It's those currents. They're riding the currents. The currents are pushing them on their migratory route. So don't be afraid to go, you know, further offshore. Another thing I want to mention, one thing that we have incorporated when looking for those bigger fish, and I'm not saying, when I say bigger, look, I'm not saying 50 pounds. Like I said earlier, I'd be lying to you if I told you that we're always looking for 50-pound dolphin. We're not. We are looking for gaffers, fish that are, you know, in the teens, right? Bigger fish. And a good indication of those bigger fish are what kind of birds? Frigates, right? Frigates. Understand bird life. You want to catch dolphin, you better understand birds. Okay? Because birds are the best indication as to what's happening below the surface. But there are different birds that'll tell you different things. I speak bird, by the way. Okay? So small birds, tiny birds that are like little terns and little tuna chicks, we call them, they can survive on small little baits. Tiny little silver sides and all sorts of small little baits, all these small little birds. And you often see flocks of these small birds working. Okay? And that's an indication that there are small dolphin in the area because the small dolphin gorge on those small little baits. A gaffer is not eating a bait this big. He's not eating a French fry. He needs something bigger, okay, than a tiny little morsel. He'll eat it because they eat everything. Chicken wings, apples, everything. Okay? And I'm not kidding about that. There have been times where we've been kite fishing and somebody on the boat's eating chicken wings and throwing the bones in, and then you catch a dolphin, you clean him at the table, and he has chicken bones in his belly. Okay? Different scenarios like that have happened. But nevertheless, the frigates, on the other hand, they need a big bait. A frigate can't get his wings wet. He can't. He doesn't have oil on his wings. He flies for months at a time without ever landing. And he cannot get his wings wet. So he has to scoop down right to the surface and literally pick off prey that's like flying fish that's being pushed out of the water, or any bait that's literally just inches right below the surface that he can grab with his beak, okay, without getting his wings wet. So he's not going down there to pick off a small bait. He's going down there to pick off a big bait, okay, a big meal. Frigates, by the way, too, I'm not sure this has nothing to do with this dolphin seminar. I'm just going to tell you something interesting. Frigates eat birds. You ever watch frigates chase birds and eat them out of the sky? It's pretty fascinating. But anyhow, so in turn, when you see frigates offshore, very, very likely there are bigger dolphin in the area if the frigate is working. If the frigate is really high up in the air and just flying around casually, are there dolphin around? Likely not. Okay, likely not. On the other hand, if he's swooping and making sharp turns and he's close to the water and swooping down, look, you all know what a feeding scenario looks like. You're all seeing that and your blood pressure is like, oh my God, you know, you're getting all excited thinking something really exciting is about to happen here. And it could, because that's what's going on. There's some sort of feeding scenario taking place under the water, okay? And that frigate, he sees it. Okay? And keep in mind, the height that the frigate is above the water is typically the depth as to what he's looking at. So if a frigate is way, 100 feet up, just flying, he doesn't see anything. He's just scouting. He's looking. If he's 50 feet up and circling, he sees something, but it's deep. Deep. That's why he's up there waiting. He's waiting. He's not ready to make that pass down because he's waiting for something to get pushed up, but he could see it. On the other hand, if he's just a few feet off the surface, there's something going on right there, okay? Because that's his chance to grab a good meal. When we see that, the way that we target those bigger dolphin is once again with two rods. Two rods. And you can do this with spinning rods. You can do it with conventional rods, because once again, this is not about quantity, it's about quality. Take two rods, take two big baits, a naked ballyhoo, a big squid, two big squid, two naked ballyhoo. Those are really your only options. Put them out behind the boat. One guy's in this corner, one guy's in this corner. Or girl, I see a lot of girls here. You guys are going to catch the biggest. So one angler in each corner. Put those baits out behind the boat. Your job, if I tell you to feed that squid back, your job is to keep your eye on your squid, right? That's it. The rod is in your hand. Your ballyhoo or your squid is skipping back there, 100 feet behind the boat. I'm at the wheel. I'm looking at the frigate. And we all know frigates are very erratic. They go right, they go left, they go up, they go down, they go in circles. I want to be able to chase that frigate. And if I have 8 lines behind the boat, can I chase that frigate? Nope. Because by the time I go to turn, he's gone. He's over there, and I'm in a big tangle. So we're not trying to do that. On the contrary, we've got one angler skipping a bait. We have another angler skipping a bait. If this gets grass or if they cross, very easy to work together. Now I could follow that frigate for 30 minutes. Okay? As much time as it takes, as much time. If I'm convinced that he's on something, we'll just keep following him. And you're looking at your bait, you're watching the whole thing unfold, and hopefully if it all comes together, the big dolphin comes up and eats your bait. Okay? But it's about systematically trying to catch that fish. Again, quality, not quantity. So it's just, once again, another little detail, another little tip that can make a big, big difference when you're out there dolphin fishing. One of the other things, and a final thing that I wanted to talk about, is using technology to find dolphin. What do I mean about technology? My C141 CTS, we have an incredible Furuno TZT network on this boat. I'm running 3 transducers. I'm running an incredibly powerful radar. I have multiple screens. I have state-of-the-art kind of stuff. Some of this, it's just AI technology, really amazing. Bathymetric charts, bathy vision, all sorts, stuff that makes Seymour look like a joke. Okay? Does that help you catch fish? Now, I tell people this all the time. It's information, right? It's providing me information is what those tools are doing. But it's all about decision making. You as an angler, you as a boater, the decisions that you make are going to dictate what you catch and what you don't. And the more information that you have, the better. But the point I'm making about this technology is there's some other similar software out there, like that tells you chlorophyll levels and circles an area and says, this is where the dolphin are going to be today. That's not true. It's not true. I'm going to be the first person to tell you that. That's not true. Okay? Dolphin move. Okay? What it's doing is it's giving you their opinion of this scenario. That based on chlorophyll levels, wave height, sea surface temperature, all of these different factors, that big dolphin, you should fish right here. No, you should fish wherever, of course, you're most comfortable fishing. There's no magic sauce. There's no magic software or app out there. If there was, don't you think we would all be using it? If there was some kind of magic thing that we could go on to and it would say, hey, 12 and a half miles offshore, okay, in 850 feet, that's where they're going to be. We would all be there. Every one of us would be there. It doesn't work that way. The ocean is this amazingly wild place that's never ending. It changes. Every second, the ocean is changing nonstop. Baits moving, fish are moving. So many different factors come to play. And there's just no one magic sauce that can help you. At the end of the day, what's going to help you be a more successful dolphin fisherman is the details. It's being ready for every encounter that you're going to come across. I can't tell you where to go look for dolphin. Offshore, that's where. I can't tell you if they're going to be 10 miles off or 20 miles off or 30 miles off. If I knew that, I wouldn't be standing here right now. Okay? I know they're going to be somewhere out there, and if you put in the time and cover that ground, at some point, you're going to cross paths with dolphin. And if you can't find them here, put your boat on a trailer and come see me in Marathon. Okay? And I'll tell you exactly where the hell they are. So just keep that in mind. Put in the time. Don't let angler failure or tackle failure, enter the equation. Okay? And there's just no substitute for experience and no substitute for dedication and no substitute for being out there. And it doesn't, what else I've learned? It doesn't take much. Right? It doesn't take much. I always used to have this feeling, we do fishing courses down in the Keys, and there's a select number of people in this room who have fished with me, and I'm always looking for more and more and more and more. I always, my logic is I want my clients to really have this incredible experience and encounter as many fish as possible. But in reality, that's not the gist of it. Fishing isn't only about catching. Fishing is about the experience, right? Fishing is about being out on the water with family, with friends, and it doesn't take much to have a rewarding experience. If you come home with 2 10-pound dolphin, would you have a good day? Right? 2 fish, but you had a great day. You saw some action, you're eating fresh dolphin for dinner for a couple of days, it was fun. Do we want to catch 20? Of course we do, and some days you will, but not every day. It doesn't take much, but there's nothing more frustrating than just flat out blowing an opportunity because you did something wrong, or you didn't put in the extra time or the extra effort, you weren't ready for it, so just don't let those things enter the equation, So with that being said, I'm going to wrap this up here. I appreciate everybody coming. I want to just spend a few minutes and answer some questions. I'm sure there's going to be some questions, and then we're going to do a little raffle here. We've got some tackle giveaways. So once again, a big hand for the Chaos crew. Okay. And I want to remind everybody again, all of our previous seminars can be seen on our streaming site, fsftv.com. What questions do you have, guys, regarding dolphin fishing? Yes, sir. So his question is, on a weed line, if it wasn't a really well-formed weed line, how would you approach that weed line and what would you do? And you know, I didn't talk a lot about this, and I should, because not all weed is created equal. Okay? And when it comes to sargassum weed, okay, when you roll up on a weed patch, look at the grass, look at the weed. Is it gold? Is it vibrant? Is it alive? Reach down, grab a chunk of grass with a net, with a gaff, or with your hands. Shake it on the boat. Look what comes out of it. You'll be amazed. Shrimp and crabs and all these little critters come out of that grass. So right out of the gate, that tells me this grass is alive. It's not dead. This is a good patch of grass, which is going to, of course, you could follow the food chain up. If all of the small stuff is in there, there's going to be bigger stuff. Dolphin turn gold and will literally go in a weed line and will dislodge little crabs and sargassum fish and eat them. You know, that's why when you fillet them, sometimes they have sargassum weed in their belly because they're picking off the crabs and the shrimp that are in the weed. But getting back to his question, how would I approach it? You know, once again, in the Keys, we're fortunate to have a lot of sargassum. There's a lot of weed lines for the most part. And sometimes it's scattered and it can be annoying, and sometimes it's well-formed. So I think it really all depends, because remember, a well-formed weed line, we did this a couple times, actually out here. We had a big patch of grass, and I threw a photographer in, or a videographer, because I wanted him to film what was going on under the grass. And amazingly, he got back in the boat, and you know what the first thing he said was? And we're talking about a patch the size of this room right here, thick mat of sargassum. He said that the temperature difference under the grass was at least 20 degrees. Okay? Now, it may not have been 20 degrees, but so dramatic that in the shadow, in the dark water under that mat of grass was substantially cooler than around it. So that was kind of fascinating to think about that on why dolphin would seek shelter, right? Not only for food, but more comfortable surroundings. But getting back to it, so when I see a big mat of grass, I'll slowly pull up to it. Slow. There it is. I'll pull up my boat. I'll get right up in the bow, and we'll throw a few baits. No hooks. We're not throwing a hooked bait. Just throw a few squid. See what happens. See who comes out to play, right? Throw 3-4 squid. Wait. Throw a few squid over here. Wait. See if anybody's there. Because remember, if you take a squid or any kind of bait on a hook, first they're going to eat the stuff without a hook. You know what I mean? I want to see if anybody's there before I approach it and try and catch any of the fish. You know, trolling weed lines, look, I don't need to tell you. You see a well-formed line? Troll right down the line. Okay? Go right down the line, turn around, and come back the other side. We all do it. That's a staple to dolphin fishing, is trolling weed lines. And it works. It's great. This, by the way, is a great lure to do that with because it's practically weedless. Now you see how that hook, I mean, it's one hook, and it's a great lure to do that with. So there's no one answer to weed lines because every single weed line is a little bit different. What I will tell you is this, though. You could go out, not see any grass, and suddenly 2 hours later, there's grass everywhere. And why is that? That grass was there all along, but it was suspended below the surface. And as the air temperature and the water temperature heat up, the little gas bubbles, they warm up, and now the grass floats to the surface. So don't think to yourself, early bird gets the worm when it comes to dolphin fishing, because that's not always true. Okay? That's not always true. Most of the dolphin, you know, the only reason you would have to go out first is because there's 900 other boats going out. So I get that. But dolphin will bite throughout the day. Dolphin will also bite at night. We don't go out dolphin fishing at night, but there have been plenty of occasions when we are offshore fishing at night In the Gulf of Mexico, snapper, grouper fishing out of Pulley Ridge, dry tortugas, sword fishing out here, where dolphin will come around the boat and you'll catch them at night. They'll feed at night for sure. Another thing about grass, the eel grass. Sometimes you see this grass out there that looks like spaghetti, right? We call that eel grass. Stay away from it. Okay? That's nowhere near the attractiveness as the sargassum. The sargassum is what holds all of the life, not that eel grass. Any other questions? Yes, sir. His question is, when you leave the dock in the morning, how do you decide if you're going to troll blindly or run and gun? Well, it's very simple. I refuse to troll blindly. Like, I'm not just going to go out there, put baits in order, and hope for the best. You know what I mean? I don't have to, because I know at some point I'm going to see something that says fish here. Okay? And it could be one frigate flying high, could be a color change, could be floating debris, could be a weed line. I need something. I need somebody to smack me in the face and go, dude, put your baits in order. You know what I mean? Not just, let me go out. Because you know what happens when you troll blindly? You tend to go out, put your baits in order, you don't catch anything, and you're like, all right, reel everything up, let's move. Well, you should have never put them in the first place. You know what I mean? So find something that tells you fish here. And remember, sometimes structure is invisible. Structure could be, doesn't have to be a pallet, or it doesn't have to be a weed line. It could be a rip. It could be a color change, right, on the surface, where the surface, the water is a different color, where two different currents are colliding, two different tides are colliding, a lot of different factors. It could be a rip created by wind, and bait gets trapped in there, a lot of different things. So I don't like ever to troll blindly. I need something that says fish here, for sure. Yes, sir. So his question is, do you find the moon phase has any impact on dolphin fishing? A lot of people tell you don't dolphin fish during a full moon because they feed all night long during that full moon, and that they won't bite the next day. You know what that sounds like to me? An excuse. In other words, look, you're not going to catch fish every day. It's not always going to be great. And you have these factors, these natural factors, like the moon, like the tide, like the current, like the watercolor. I tell this to everybody, even on our courses. I'm like, look, I've learned to control what I can control. The stuff that I can't control, yes, I make a mental note, but I'm never going to say, I'm not going to go fishing because it's a full moon. Or I can't wait to go fishing because it's a full moon. And even though we're talking about dolphin, the same applies for wahoo. Everybody knows a full moon is a key feeding period for wahoo. Why? Because a full moon creates greater gravitational pull. It's pulling more water off the reef. More bait is then being entered into the arena, and you have an increased feeding scenario. So the week or the few days approaching the full moon and a few days after the full moon are going to be the best wahoo fishing. And if you looked at all of the records everywhere, that could certainly be right. But I'm going to tell you from personal experience, the best wahoo fishing and the largest wahoo I've ever caught were nowhere near the full moon and completely wrong conditions. But you know why I caught them? Because I went fishing, right? So I say, when you can go fishing, go. Not everybody is fortunate enough, or in a position like I am where I fish a lot for a living. We're filming shows, I'm taking people fishing. So you may only have that one Saturday, or you may only have that Tuesday, or whatever it is. Go. Just go. Make a mental note of it. And as far as that full moon, look, whatever that moon was last night, you're still going fishing today, pal. So it doesn't matter what it did or didn't do. You go out there, you do the best that you can, you pay attention to the details, and you'll get your chances. Yes, sir. This question is, when you're pulling ballyhoo, do you ever use wire? When I was fishing here, 100%, because we caught a lot of kingfish and wahoo on the ballyhoo. And also dolphin and sailfish will eat a ballyhoo on wire. In the Keys, no. Because when we're pulling ballyhoo offshore for dolphin, there are no wahoo there. There are no kingfish there. So we pull them all on mono. So it all depends on where you're fishing. You know, I don't want to say no less attractive. Look, wire is more visible. There's no question. However, the boat's moving. There's a lot of white water. So if you were drifting or sitting still or on the anchor, I think that that higher profile, higher signature line would certainly play a role. Kite fishing would certainly play a role. But when you're drifting, when you're trolling and there's all that white water, I believe that while it may play a role, it's going to be substantially less of a role. You are absolutely still going to catch dolphin on wire-rigged ballyhoo. No question. All right, guys, we'll go ahead and wrap this up here. Again, a big thank you to the crew. I appreciate everybody coming out. I'm going to do a quick raffle. And I'm going to stay up here, guys. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Oh, we got some good stuff. I'll grab